Welcome to another episode of It's Debatable NFL edition. I'm your host, Justin Jones, here with co-host Sebastian Pluvios. Last night, Sunday, football, a whole bunch of great matchups. But what we're gonna start with was as I would say, the main event of yesterday, and that is the Chiefs versus the Bills. Definitely somewhat lived up to expectations. It did come down to, you can say, the last play. The Bills ended up getting the win. I believe scored 28-21. Overall, they just looked like the better team than the Chiefs. But how you feel about the matchup?
Sometimes you just gotta listen to me, bro. If I tell you the Bills is gonna win, you should have took all your money and placed it on the Bills, bro. Because they did exactly what I said they was gonna do in home territory, man. Josh Allen came out with a chip on his shoulder, playing his rival in Patrick Mahomes, and they played it at home. It gave him a little bit of emphasis. I seen Josh Allen utilize the run game. I seen him make a bunch of great reads, especially to Dalton Kincaid, somebody that his favorite target for the most of the season thus far too. I'm looking at a guy James Cook who really could not be stopped on this run game whatsoever too. When they needed a gain of maybe 9 yards, a gain of six, a first down or so, James Cook was just that guy relatively for the most part throughout that whole game. There was nothing the defense was able to do with them. Um, I'm looking at it too, and just scoring in the end zone. Josh Allen finished with two touchdowns. Relatively just finishes where he needs to be. And I'm looking at that game. I was just like, there was a chance, but I think that Buffalo's defense really silenced all the noise more so because that wasn't like the best Patrick Mahomes game I'd say I seen him play relatively. Very much so stayed in the pocket for most of the game. Didn't really utilize the run game whatsoever like he was accustomed to doing within the first couple of weeks of the season, though. So that was kind of an interesting thing to see. I believe he got sacked maybe three times, four times throughout the game. So yeah, so Buffalo's defense was on one. They knew the circumstance of that game. They knew it was a game that is always going to be hyped up to. So they came out to play definitely. And for the Chiefs side of things, though, I just think that slow, lackluster. I think just them not having Pacheco as well definitely hurt. Rashid Rice did as much as he could. Kareem Hunt starting into that running back one role did as much as he could do. But overall, for the most part, though, I think Buffalo's offense was just ready to go and they were locked and loaded from the beginning of tip off.
In terms of the game, I feel like after watching it that I need to see this in the playoffs. Like the regular season, they got the job done. Kudos to them. Josh Allen played well. The team showed up, and on that night, they did look better than the Chiefs. But if I still had to put my money on it, if it came down to the playoffs, as you can see, never beaten Patrick Mahomes. I just feel like they'll get the job done there. But in terms of the game last night, just to the point that you said their offense looked better. I feel like the offensive line just for the Chiefs just was not good last night. They are a little banged up. So as you said, Patrick Mahomes just got sacked a lot of times. He just wasn't really able to look as comfortable as he did in the previous 2 to 3 weeks. I feel like people like Travis Kelsey and Rice, they did their thing, and it really came down to the last play. Just both of those, Hail Mary plays didn't end up going. Overall, it was a close game. I don't think neither team left out of it like we can't beat the other. It was just the Chiefs made more mistakes, and the Bills made less mistakes.
Uh, I definitely agree to that though. Yeah, shout out to the Bills defense though. I definitely think that they, did what they were supposed to do for the most part.
No, yeah, but definitely a great matchup every time that Patrick Mahomes is going up against Josh Allen. This is a matchup that we would like to see in the playoffs, and yeah, just another one in the long story of Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. Um, oh, just like I said, a whole bunch of matchups last night. What was your team of the weekend, though? The team that you felt made the biggest statement?
Um, I would have to give it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming in after a bad loss against the Green Bay Packers. They definitely came in and handled the business. The defense was outstanding, though, forcing 5 picks, probably like at least 6 sacks on Daniel Jones, making him relatively back to just normal or looking like he was on the Giants for the most part. He struggled with that Steelers defense, though. I think they came out to a hot start. I think Aaron Rodgers knew the assignment, feeding guys like Pat Fairmouth and guys like Jalen Warren, who they need to get going a little bit more if they want to make a serious run later on in the season, though. I think also when I'm watching the Steelers game, I think that there was just an agenda of just to slow down the red hot Indiana Colts. And that's exactly what they did. You see a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who relatively was on fire for the most part for the whole season. He came into Indiana. He came into this game, and they stopped all that shit right where they needed to. Really couldn't get off a good run for the most part. Didn't score. None of that. I'm looking at other guys like Michael Pittman, everybody else. There was nothing really going on for the Colts, and they relatively got brought back to life. Got brought back down to life. I think more so this was needed for them, especially just being on a roller coaster of a ride that they are. Evidently so. They still finished the game with just ending off on one touchdown, though. So I guess for the most part, the Steelers had the game under control. They tried to make a late push in the end, didn't work. But for the most part, though, that was a good one for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well needed, especially for a defense that they spent a lot of money on and was relatively atrocious for the most part in a couple of games. Though they definitely got it together.
Yeah, I was thinking of two teams that was definitely in some tight matchups. The first team that came to mind, was the Chicago Bears. It was just a very high scoring game, back and forth, and it really came down to that. Chicago's defense just getting those timely stops, and shout out to Caleb Williams for just closing that game out and doing what he had to do. Shout out to the Keenan Allens of the world. Well, not Keenan Allen, but just shout out to all the receivers that was just doing their thing. I feel like that was a game to where if Caleb Williams, ended up losing it, he just would have been the donkey of the day and just the laughing stock for just losing to a Bengals team that apparently just can't stop a nosebleed. So I thought about them, and another team I thought about was the Carolina Panthers, a team that just coming into this season, no real person besides if he was from Carolina had faith in is now right now in the midst of the middle of the season with a positive record, just going up against the Green Bay Packers, and that great defense that they have was just able to pull out that win. Shout out to the field goal kicker and the specials teams, for just getting the job done late at the end. But those are the two teams that I was looking at the most.
I like the Panthers though. I definitely feel like that's a good pick though. I think for the Bengals side of things though, I mean they were supposed to win that game. I think the Chicago Bears definitely was supposed to win that game. My fault, not the Bengals. I think more so just Bengals defense, man. You got a guy like Joe Flacco that's trying to revitalize your season though. Definitely brought the city back a little bit of hope, and then you just I can't even. If I was on offense, I'd be relatively pissed. You got to give one stop though, like one stop, man. You fight all the way back into the game. Just I get the frustration over there in Cincinnati though, but it's the same thing though. But like they said though, you spend all this money on your two receivers, man. Where's the money for the defensive players? Where's the defensive stars we're bringing in? Like, you know what I'm saying?
But
Like,
yeah, but if you give up all the yardage that you've given up over the last two games, right? Just giving up over 1,000 yards. When does it come down to they still have all those defensive players on the field? How bad could they be? Or are they just not doing their job? Because to give up that many points is just kind of embarrassing.
yeah, it's a shootout. I mean, on both sides it was a shootout though. But the thing is though, like every time your offense is coming back in, they're giving you something. T. Higgins just really went berserk for them. Literally 2 touchdowns. He was doing this thing. Chase Brown was doing this thing. You even got a touchdown out of Noah Fant. And I forgot the other dude's name. I forgot. I'm not gonna even butcher your name. I'm not gonna say it. But yeah, you got all that offense was clicking on all sides of the cylinder, and you can't give me one. You can't literally give me one touchdown. It takes a rookie tight end for the Chicago Bears to end the game. Loveland, I believe his name was. He was doing it. He did his thing out there too as well. And then they had Kyle Magani. I think that's his name, the running back who just got the start. And mind you, mind you, they won this game without even Roma Dunze doing anything special. Their wide receiver one did not do nothing special that game, and they still managed to put up like fucking. They put up what 47 points.
Right.
If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you take everything that the offense said about you in the press conference, and then you take that to a grain of tea, man, because it's frustrating. It literally is
But
frustrating, man.
now, but now you bring that up, right? A player like Chase Brown, right, making those comments after the game as he did, was he justified for doing that?
Yes, because it's been the same shit for the past 2 years now. Every time that the Bengals offense puts up, you go in there, you like, we got to go back on offense just as quick as that. You know how much time. I want to look at the time of possession for each time that the Chicago Bears scored, or majority of the teams have scored. It hasn't been long drives. It's not a long drive. It's a quick drive. It's mostly max maybe a 3 4 minute drive. They're marching through the field, bro. That
But
should be
would
an
you?
embarrassment. They're
But
marching
what?
through the field. They
But
can't
what?
grab anybody. Every time I look, Caleb Love gets out of that pocket so quick. He can scramble out that pocket so quick. I didn't see one sack. I couldn't tell you one time I seen a sack from a Cincinnati Bengals
But
defense.
is that throwing your teammates under the bus? I just want your opinion. Like, would you have said those same comments after the game?
I, it gets to a certain point. I'm sick of this shit. Yes, I'm sick of this shit. You don't think the offense is literally saying that? We're literally sick of this shit. They played a great offense, and mind you, they were down. The game was relatively over. I think it was 41-27. Everybody thinking, yo, yeah, that's game. That's game. They fought back. Joe Flacco is 40, bro. Banged up, bro. Still making plays for them. This is not Jake Browning, bro. This is Joe Flacco, bro. He's played all right for them for the most part, bro. Jamar Chase looks, feel me? He's revitalized. T. Higgins revitalized, bro. They wasn't saying this a couple weeks ago. It's like, oh, we're down and out. Now they feel like they had a chance, bro. They literally had a chance, especially in the home crowd. The fans, it's not only the players thinking that, the fans were thinking that too as well. Sometimes it's warranted. Sometimes you need to get called out and get accountable for some bullshit, bro. Because if it was the defense doing their job and the offense would just we're not getting no type of offensive contribution from star players or anything like that, they should get called out too. In a certain sense, it's like, damn, bro, you're not gonna give us no pick six, nothing, a sack, fumble.
Listen,
It's ridiculous. I'd be frustrated.
the defense will say they're doing the best they can, bro.
The offense would be like you're lying. The offense
Yeah,
is like you're
what the
lying,
fuck?
bro. You call
All
that
right,
lying, bro?
listen. Shout out to the Bengals. Shout out to Ocho Cinco, right? Shout out to the Chicago Bears. They get a much needed win. But I want to ask your opinion on two matchups that went down last night. You already kind of addressed one of them, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers did go up against the Colts. It was an upset just based off how the Colts was playing this season. Also on the other side, the Minnesota Vikings got the upset win over the Detroit Lions. I want to ask you, which upset what was you more concerned about?
Um, the upset I was more concerned about was from the Detroit Lions. I think especially at home that you were supposed to handle business against a Viking team. That just got a return from JJ McCarthy too. By the way, props to him though. Hell of a game. So he was just hitting on all cylinders. Came back from injury, fresh, revitalized, ready to go. And you've seen it from the start of the game towards the end of the game too. But when I'm looking at the fucking Detroit Lions, there's no possible way that you have this much firepower on offense and you yet are struggling. And it's been a consistent thing for them this season for the most part. They'll come off on a high. Jameer Gibbs is doing this thing. Amar St. Brown doing this thing. Everybody doing anything. Then they get brought back into reality like, yo, if y'all not hitting on all cylinders, if the offense is not clicking, who's going to win us the game? And that was a major question for them for the most part. I've seen a lot of last couple weeks reports saying how they're trying to get Jamison Williams more involved, and they did that too. And yet here we are still struggling. The defense did not really show up. You couldn't stop JJ McCarthy from getting it going, whether it was throwing the ball or running for a couple of yards. Couldn't stop him as well. Justin Jefferson looked special out there. Definitely felt a little more comfortable this week too. Somebody that is trying to pick back up, is starting to revamp a little bit more after a couple of weeks of just trying to figure out just how my quarterback issue is. Like, am I going to get as much targeted as I should, or should this be a team emphasis too as well? You even though you lose a guy like Aaron Jones who got hurt once again, they still found a way to win the game. They were like Jordan Mason do his thing a little, and yeah, Jordan Addison was doing his thing. Lane was doing his thing. Defense couldn't really do too much though, but this is just a reoccurring thing. I feel for the not the Vikings, the Detroit Lions. I think they're sitting right now maybe 5-3 or 5-4. I gotta just double check that real quick. But for the most part, though, yeah, it's a disappointing loss too, because it's like you're supposed to come in the home crowd, and especially for a team that just got spanked by the Chargers, you're supposed to take that as a all right. Feel me? This team right now just had a bad loss. They're gonna try to come out and get some type of revenge, some type of a feel good, get back on the winning side of things. You supposed to hell no, that wasn't even supposed to happen to them, and yet here you are now. Bad loss. Jared Goff looked relatively, pedestrian until the fourth quarter. Really couldn't get nothing going. Somebody that's up there in age can't run out the pocket for shit though, but is a certified arm slinger. So I'll give him that. But for the most part though, it looked very relatively pedestrian. Jahmyr Gibbs didn't have one of those games that we're accustomed to him having. I think. Oh yeah, 5-3. You see yourself 5-3 now, and I just think that more so yeah, that wasn't the Detroit Lions offense that I'm accustomed to seeing. So one game they'll look like they have the hottest offense, the next subpar. So I think that was my biggest concern for them is the Lions though.
Right. I would actually say on the other side, just for the Colts, they were just such on a high, and Daniel Jones, I think, was just the biggest question mark after leaving this game. All the naysayers, all the Giants fans are trying to say that this is the real Daniel Jones. He was sacked a whole bunch of times, just wasn't able to look anything like any prior week. And really, in my personal opinion, I just think it was one game. I don't think that, he's just gonna revert back to being trash. Um, but I feel like in the NFL, you just never know. Like, what if like the demons have just came back and Daniel Jones is just about to go back to stinking up the joint? And then Jonathan Taylor, how do you just kind of like disappear as you did? Like, so it was just weird, but we talked about the football gods before toward that time where the Dolphins and the Jets both won on the same Sunday. Imagine if you had put that on your ticket. But in terms of the Colts, I wanted to ask you, do you think it was just a bad loss, or do you think it was actually something that they have to look at internally?
No, it was just a bad loss. And for the most part, though, they try to fix the errors relatively late in the game. I know the defense definitely gave them a little sun towards the end of the game as well. And, you take that loss on the chin. You started off relatively slow. It was a slow paced game. The defense was ready for Jonathan Taylor. I think that was more so the emphasis going into this week, though. How do we contain a guy like Jonathan Taylor who makes up, I believe, if I want to be honest, maybe 75% of the Colts offense? Whether he's just in position to be blocking or just running the ball, or maybe a short route, he's really the focal point of their offense. Somebody that could say is front runner for offensive player of the year. You see it, 3 touchdowns for like what 2 or 3 straight games. Yeah, so the Steelers were ready for him. They were ready for him. Everybody else, I don't think was a star in their role. I know Alec Pierce caught for like maybe 113 though. He did all right. Michael Pittman, I'm used to him having maybe a little better game. He started off relatively slow too as well. You gotta look at all of that, and you put that all into consideration. Tyler Warren didn't have the best game either too. I believe he only caught for like 40. Maybe if had 20 receiving yards at halftime. Finished the game, I think 44. subpar game for him, I believe. But other than that, though, nobody really had it going until the end of the game. They started learning from their mistakes. So I like what I seen towards the end of the game, and they're just only going to take that part and then move forward with it, and then take it as a loss on the chin. We needed that. We got brought down back to earth. This is only their second loss of the season, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, second loss. The first one came to the Rams, and sort of in a close game too as well. Both of their losses came as 6 points losses. Literally, a touchdown was all they needed. So, you know, as a coach, you don't look at it too much. Daniel Jones had to get that monkey off his shoulder, that one little bad game. It was bound to happen for the most part. Nearly every no quarterback did have a perfect game this season. So if people take it as a woe or him reverting back, I wouldn't necessarily put stock into that just yet, though. I would kill that hype.
Right. Right. Dallas and Arizona tonight. Monday Night Football. Just give us your preview and prediction of the game.
America's football team is going to go out and handle business after an egregious loss to the fucking was the Broncos last week. They have to get back and they have to, perform. I think it was a bad showing from Dak Prescott. Whenever I feel like the Dallas Cowboys lose, everybody's just on their hip about just, oh, this team is not good, this, that, and the third. But as soon as they win, oh, maybe Dallas can be special. So, it's always a media hype with them, whether they win or lose. It's always going to be a hype to see they're good or they're not. But for this game, I think they should come in and handle business. I think you have a Cardinals team that's relatively struggled throughout the season, which is their own identity. It's kind of hard to build a full blown identity when you got a guy like Kyler Williams relatively out from parts of the season too. I say Kyler Williams. What is it? Kyler Murray? Yeah, Kyler Murray. My fault. Kyler Murray, who's been out for parts of the season thus far as well. And then your running back situation switches up every week. You might have Michael Carter or the DeMarco kid. Trey Benson was hurt. James O'Connor is out for the season. You don't have a significant running back. Your wide receiver Marvin Harris hasn't looked that great throughout the whole season. I don't know if it's because the quarterback change or what the case may be, though. But he was supposed to be a star stud for them as well. The only bright spot I say is Trey McBride, and he's having a hard time adjusting too when you have a quarterback issue too as well. Was it Jacoby? What's their backup quarterback to him? I keep forgetting bruh's name.
Isn't it Jacoby Brissett? So
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett relatively has clicked more with Trey McBride than Kyler Murray has, as crazy as it sounds, though. But for the Arizona Cardinals side of things, it's been more confusion more than anything else. So I'm not expecting them to come out and handle business against Dallas. I think Dallas right now do have the offense to just, handle business tonight. Javonte Williams, their running back, has been stellar throughout the whole season thus far. One of their most consistent factors when you look at side of things too. Another guy in what's it call it? Jake Ferguson, somebody who's Dak Prescott's favorite target, in my opinion. I think somebody that gets most of the touchdowns for this team as well. Or do you still have your two offensive juggernauts, CD Lamb and George Pickens? So there should be no reason why Dallas loses, especially at home. They should handle this with ease, literally with ease. If I'm a betting man, I'll take everything and I put it on Dallas spread, not even money line. I take the spread.
now yeah, the spread at -3 definitely I feel like is a safe bet.
You
But
raise it up.
but just knowing this Dallas defense, I feel like any team can just sneak a win on them, right? I think just the combination of Kyler Murray coming back with him having that option, like you just said, of Trey McBride, I'm not gonna lie, that just might be enough to beat the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't trust that defense. I feel like these are when like we seen some of the best quarterback performances going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Who's not to say Kyle Murray just doesn't have one of those games? Him being a dual threat quarterback, he can do it on his legs and throwing the ball. And like I said, if Trey McBride goes off, and if the Cardinals can get off to a hot start, and if they could win that first quarter, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals would win. I am also picking Dallas as well, though, because I feel like just at the end of the day, they just have the healthier team right now. But I wouldn't be surprised that if Arizona did pull off an upset.
Hmm. I don't know, man. But I think the Cardinals are just they're in their own way. That's a team that in the offseason gonna have a lot of questions they're gonna have to answer. And I think for it showed in this season who's gonna be our future quarterback. What do we do with our running back issues?
Right.
Is Marvin Harrison Jr. our guy? And it's just a weird time to be an Arizona Cardinals fan. I'm gonna keep it a buck. They have one of the worst losses this season. Uh,
Right.
Relatively been subpar. It's just you never know with this team. They're a team that just was just question marks. Literally, that's a team. That's a question mark team. Are you good? Are you bad? Decent? Do we have what it takes to make a push? Can
That
we?
they're kind of just like the Sacramento Kings of the NFL. They're just, a team that's, at the beginning of the season could sound good on paper, but as the weeks go by, they definitely showed their true colors. But that's going to do it for this episode of It's Debatable NFL edition. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on all social media platforms at It's Debatable double underscore. Follow me at Justin Jones on Facebook for details and developments on the platform. Jersey.